Good morning. I'm your host, Dale Joesy, and welcome to our new YouTube channel, Aging with Grace 55 Plus Diane Gilman. Many of you will recognize my co-host from her 28 years on QVC HSN, where she became the #1 fashion personality in tele-retail, responsible for over $100 million in retail sales per year. Without further delay, good morning, Diane. How are you from New York?
Good morning. It's sunny. There's snow on the ground in Central Park. I'm all good. I'm perky. I'm ready to go.
Perky as ever. And Diane, I must say, you look resplendent at 77 years young. And we're going to get into that story. How do you stay looking so wonderful, so marvelous at 77 years young? How do you do it?
You know what? Seriously, it takes a lot of discipline. And also, I sort of transferred my fashion design skills into new territory, wearing color, white hair. So I guess I see myself consistently as a work in progress, as we all should.
As we all should. You know, one of the things that you've said, and by the way, folks who are watching our podcast, and please, by the way, and also this YouTube channel, be sure to listen to our first episode, which you can hear on YouTube. You can also listen to our companion podcast series on Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you listen to podcasts, including my website, awg55.com. And as we're going through this interview, be sure to get a copy of Diane's amazing book, Too Young to Be Old. You can get your copy on Amazon today. And Diane, from your book, we're going to pick it up there because when you talk about owning your look, how you look, one of the things you said in your book is that it's not sad to be old. What does that mean? It's not sad to be old. And how do you apply that to your life?
You know, I always say this, and I've held a lot of conference groups because I was really a pioneer in fashion to bring fashion to an over 55-year-old customer base. So I always get the same thing. And I will say this, if I had an audience in an auditorium of 1,000 women, and I said, how many of you are looking forward to being 65? I don't think you'd have one hand raised.
Wow.
If I said, how many of you are frightened of growing old, every woman would raise her hand. There are many myths that we have to break because we are the first generation. We are going to live very close to being 100. We're going to work longer. We're going to pay taxes longer. We are the voting power of America. Older people come out to vote. We are the spending power of America, and we are the richest generation that the earth has ever hosted. And yet, old age is just kind of this miasma of disease and decline and being no longer useful or relevant, or, you know, all of this has to be busted through. And I'm there to do it. And I'm sure that there's others that are going to join me. But we should be celebrating this time of our lives.
Absolutely. We should be doing that. And that was one of the mantras, and remains one of the mantras of my podcast series, which I love that you also have in your life, Diane, which is, as we age, this is a time of application. This is not a time to be relegated to the sidelines, which you phrase a different way, because you say when women reach a certain age, they become invisible. And so how do you flesh that through in terms of, hey, we're still here, we're not going anywhere, in terms of their dynamism, this aging group of women and men?
You know, it was interesting. And I think that not only was inventing a DG2 gene, the gene that dressed middle-aged American women who had never seen that opportunity before to get their sexy back, to marry their youth to where they were today. I think that we're all going to have a kind of a shift in our headsets and say to ourselves, these are the precious years.
Oh, that's good.
These are, to me, there's something David Crosby from Crosby, Stills and Nash said, and it was so relevant, and he just passed. He said, time is our most valuable currency past a certain age. And once you realize that, then you know it's your responsibility, it's your life to fill it up with joy and with giving back and with charity towards others. And I don't know, but everything I'm saying was not something I ever thought of when I was 27, but now that I'm 77, I want to leave that footprint. And I think helping others means you get your self-respect back as you get older. As a woman, especially a white-haired woman, you could be with the homeliest 25-year-old standing at a bar together, and she would get 100% of the attention, you would get none. There is just something about aging for women where you're sort of get thee to a nunnery, pushed off to the side. And okay, I get it. I can't be everything to every man anymore. But guess what? I'm still myself. I've still got my thoughts. I've still got my passions. I've still got my focus. So we're going to have to rethink getting older and what I want to call, and I hate to use this term, old age. When I hear some of my friends talk, female friends, who've lost their husbands along the way to divorce, gray divorce, or to disease or old age, and they talk about a new man or a new relationship, they sound like 14-year-olds.
What?
We don't have guidelines to how we should react to elemental things that were never really put in our reality before. But because we've got so many more drugs out there and so much more information, we can live longer. And you may want another mate, but this isn't about the white wedding dress and you're going to have children and sail off into the sunset. It's something totally different. There have to be depots of information. And I hope that this podcast becomes one of those depots that at least give you guidelines you can cherry pick and choose from to live a better life, a more appropriate life, and a more authentic life in your 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and beyond.
That's so good. That's kind of been the theme and the guiding line of our podcast series. Because you mentioned, and we're going to talk about your I wouldn't say meteoric rise, but your steady progression to building this $150 million empire by creating DG2 jeans for women, where you sold 19 million pairs after age 60. But before I get there, Diane, there has been in your life, you say the theme of life is always, your success has always been about listening to that inner voice. And so when women have come up to you after presentation, they said, how did you do it, Diane? And you talk about listening to your inner voice. What does that mean? And how did you apply that?
I think that for an artist, and even though I was a commercial artist, I looked at my craft as art. There is a feeling in your solar plexus. There is a feeling in your core when something is true to itself, right or wrong. And every time I made a major decision, I could feel that in me. And a couple of times signing contracts, I had the worst feeling. Oh
no.
And you know what? It's not like I brought it to bear. It's like I knew in advance I was getting into a contractual legal bed with vipers. But, sometimes in your life, you only have toxic choices. So, okay. But I will say, honestly, everybody has that inner radar to know, is it right for me? Is it wrong for me? Now, you may have no way out to get to the right part of it at the moment, but you can feel it. I'm not alone on that one at all.
But I think that's a universal concept. I want you to flesh that out a little bit about toxic choices, because in your rise from the beginning, when you first started out, you're creating your genes to where you are now. You talk about toxic choices, but you made them, but they didn't derail you. They almost became a fuel for you to go next level. Is that a fair assumption? Yes or no?
Some of it became a fuel. Some of it, I felt that I had the strength to fight bad decisions that were coming down a corporate ladder and were going to really take away the identity of my brand that I had worked so hard on for the majority of my professional life. And you know what?
What?
I fought it and I fought it and I fought it as long as I could. And then when I was diagnosed with cancer, I got about a year off to kind of put things into perspective. I took cancer treatment as sort of an exotic vacation. I realized after the first chemo treatment, wow, this is what people do. Like, I've never had a day off. This is like a day off. Well, that slowly became less and less fun. But I had a purpose. I knew my purpose. And even though it came very late in life for me, I developed the DG2 gene and launched it when I was 60 years old, and unheard of in the fashion industry, except for Coco Chanel, who was banned from Paris because of her connections with the Nazis and the Gestapo. She was allowed to come back to Paris when she was 72. And do you know, at the age of 72, Coco Chanel designed the Chanel suit?
No way.
And the icon, and yeah, that was her greatest moment of design impact and becoming probably the most powerful fashion voice for a century and beyond.
Absolutely.
So I felt that I became like a fashion warrior. I had to defend my brand. I had to keep defining my brand. And the good news was that it is so unique in tele-retail because you've got a voice. You're on television. Marsha McLuhan said the medium is the message. So it is assumed if you are on TV, you are bigger than life, but you're also telling the truth. So I knew that I knew I'd struck a chord in women's hearts all over America. Then I took the brand global because we all have the same hormones and we all age the same. And, I think the one shock I would always say is never count on a corporation who wants your name for understanding why they want it. Maybe they're just like a spoiled child and they just want it.
They just want it. It doesn't matter what. They just
want it. It's shiny and bright. And then once they get it, I guarantee you, and I've seen it in every field of business, the minute they get it, they want to change it. They want to make it something they believe in. Well, and so I think that was the toughest part of my career, giving up my name.
But you know what? When you talk about Coco Chanel, there's something that she said, and I thought it was a great quote applicable for today. Coco Chanel said, "Success is often achieved by those who don't know that failure is inevitable." And as I read your book, you never knew that failure was inevitable. You kept going. And folks, I encourage you to read Too Young to Be Old, because that's it, right? Failure is not an option, according to Coco Chanel. Nor was it for you.
Those are two very different things. Okay,
I was unpack it for us.
Always terrified of failure, but I felt failure was totally unacceptable. Oh, are you kidding me? I would curl up in a ball before a big TV show and go, "Oh no, oh no." Oh no, oh no, oh save me. Oh, could I get on an airplane and escape? What am I going to do? I'm going to fail. And then maybe the third or fourth minute I'm into a show, it's like, oh, okay, this could be all right.
Not Diane Gilman. You would not be in a ball saying go away. Not you.
Totally terrified of failure. because failure is completely unacceptable to me.
Yeah.
But failure is also, avoiding failure or actually maybe putting a pillow underneath a hard drop.
Well, good
It's
point.
knowing where you're at in the moment. It's being truthful to yourself, not lying to yourself. And I was lucky. I mean, tele-retail is not like the rest of TV.
Yeah.
You've got an aging audience and you're an aging personality, and they love you for that, and you love them in return. And everybody's doing something good for one another.
Yeah.
And it was a very, very, very unique experience to be able to sort of really talk directly to the customer who was your audience. It was a privilege. I loved doing it.
Well, in a minute, we're going to talk about part of your rise, including the cabal shirt phenomenon. But before we get there, something that you also alluded to in your book is a fashion rule breaker. That's who you are, and yet you have millions of fans. So, are you a rebel, Diane, in terms of fashion?
Totally.
And life?
I'm a rebel. Period. I'm somebody who's not going to take a stock answer for. If I don't feel that it's right for me, then I'm going to customize and craft my own life to whatever that particular event or challenge is. And one thing I really understand now is that fashion is meant, or at least where it's gone today, fashion is meant to disrupt, to disturb, to fight the norms. And I'm just so when I got white hair and I'm trying to figure it out, I was all in neutrals and I was in shades of gray and I was in black, and then one day I wore color and we photographed me, put it on Instagram, and we got like 7 times the amount, 700% more comments.
No way.
And I realized that, I had been cloaking myself with a bit of invisibility and sort of like, well, don't look at me. Don't look at me so much. And then I thought, no, that's not me.
Yeah.
Like, let's go for it.
Let's
start expressing our joy and expressing our energy and good moods with color. So in a way, I feel like a painter. I feel like my outfits really tell you a lot about who I am, where my headset is, and amazing. I never really took fashion as that much of an outward statement, but I am today. So you know what? You're going to learn something new every day of your life if you just open yourself up to it.
But so here's the thing, though. You're living your life out loud, right? And when you talk about cloaking yourself, that goes back to something else in your book. You say that women at a certain age, and probably men too, but we'll talk about women for right now, that you guys disappear into baggy clothes, right? And that's
we don't have a choice.
You don't have a choice, but DG2 jeans for women gave women a choice. What choice did it give them, madam?
Okay, so I'm going to admit, I really put my reputation on the line here, that I do love a lot of country music, and I really love Tammy Wynette. And she had a saying, and it was how she interpreted a song. And she said, you cannot truly sing a song from the heart unless you've lived it. So for me, and I learned this very late in my career at the age of 58, if you want to design a garment that is going to reach women's hearts, all the women around you that are in your age range, you've got to have lived it and invented it for yourself. At least I did. And so I went into middle age and gained a ton of weight. I was almost 200 pounds. I was a quarter of a pound away from 200 pounds.
No way.
Yeah. And I couldn't wear anything I wanted to wear. And I could only wear baggy, like hide me, like don't look at me kind of clothing. And so, being the pragmatic person I am, I asked myself, well, what do you want to wear? What do you feel would be the optimum thing for you to reconnect yourself to your youth? I'm not asking to be young again, but I would like to feel like people looked at me and admired me and that I was relevant in my world of fashion and society. And I thought, I'd like to wear a jean. So here's what I did. I worked 5 days a week. I worked every show I needed to do. In between, I went on a quest. It took almost a year. I went to every denim and category denim killer store in New York, Manhattan, and New Jersey. And the comments I got were incredible. Like, and all these sales girls were all like teenagers on spring break. And so one of them would come up and tap me on the shoulder and say, ma'am, you're way too old for this store. There's nothing in here for you.
They said that to you?
Or, ma'am, I think you should try the plus size department, but they don't carry jeans. Yeah, I got so many ageist remarks, and that even just made me more determined. And after almost a year of shopping, I realized it's never going to happen. So at the time, I had a sewing room in New York. We made our clothing in America at the time. And I had sewers there, and I thought, okay, here's the deal. I'm going to do something that nobody else is interested in doing for me. I'm going to take all my measurements and I'm going to make a jean for my spare tire waist, middle-aged body. And I did.
Oh, wow.
And I went out and bought 3 yards of denim. We made the pattern, everything about it, got the special machinery that can do denim because it's a thick fabric.
It's a thick fabric,
and
correct.
we made a jean, and it was unbelievable. It fit me.
What?
And yeah, because if you get a jean where the waist is too tight, you get this jelly roll over the jean, this muffin spill. So anyway, I wore it out on the street. Men started looking at me again, like at least I was there. And my self-esteem and also I would go into work and all my 20-something assistants used to always say to me, well, Diane, you wouldn't understand back in your day. And I wanted to smack them.
Right.
And then suddenly I was one of the girls. Now suddenly I was one of them because we were all sitting there wearing denim, no matter what age.
That's
and
so
obviously
good.
I was the oldest.
Yeah.
So I took away my own invisibility.
Oh, that's good.
And I think the other thing is you have to look at jeans. You have to look at anything that's so endemic in society. It was like a decade by decade postcard of my life from the 60s to the 70s. Everyone wanted to look like Farrah Fawcett, and to the 80s, and then the Britney Spears denim era, and with Low Slung, and all of that put together. And I thought, okay, I would go on air and say something like, you're going to buy this jean, and it's going to be like a beautiful box of memories. Every time you wear it, you open up the box, and another great memory comes out. Your first date with your husband, the birth of your first child, and going away on that first vacation as a family together. And, I meant it all because I was living it. That's what it meant to me. And so it took all that time, and it took that credibility of, it's your life, and I'll bet you're sharing it with others. To build $100 million a year brand. But it was built on coming straight from the heart. And that was a real lesson for me. Huge.
Well, and I love this saying. And by the way, for our guests who are tuning in to us, we have Diane Gilman, who you recognize from QVC and HSN, where she spent 28 years and became the #1 fashion personality responsible for $100 million in retail sales per year. And after what age did you launch DG2 denim jeans?
I invented the jean when I was 58, and then we launched it when I was 60.
60, folks. That's why this is such a compelling story, because Diane, as you're talking about it, you said that millions of women could find hope in a pant leg. What does that mean with your DG2?
Well, I think that men can go on a long time with a lot less restrictions on them, but women somehow are expected to keep their beauty and their body, and some stuff that just frankly biologically is impossible. And so you get to a point where you feel you're not getting any male attention anymore. And, the world kind of goes from Technicolor to sepia, black and gray. And this gives you back the color in your life. The jean gave you back the spiciness in your life. The jean made you feel like, yeah, I'm older, but guess what? I'm still a cool girl. And that was everything. And so Hope in a Pant Leg was really the feeling that if you bought a DG2 jean, it was going to make your everyday life better. And guess what? It really did. I wasn't selling a hollow promise. That's why now, almost 21 million jeans later, it's still the #1 brand, jean brand in tele-retail. Yeah.
Wow. Well, then off mic, we talked about DG2 jean is like an emotional sell. So in terms of being the cool chick again, an emotional sell. How do you parse that, madam? And what does that mean?
Well, if you are in a studio as much as I was in a TV studio, and you see it all, you see everything from selling a vacuum cleaner to selling pet food to, selling skincare. Most of the sell is done from factual base, but done by people that don't have their heart in the product. They didn't invent the product. They didn't starve to death for the product. They didn't fall in love with their product. But I fell in love with my jean. And from that time on, I have not had a day in my life that I haven't worn a DG2 jean. Not a day.
Wow.
And it has serviced me wherever you go. Go to Europe, go to Paris. The #1 uniform is a gray blazer, a t-shirt, a neck scarf, and a jean. So it also became an international language of fashion. And it immediately, I think, elevates you as an older female, and people sort of perceive you as 20 years younger, more energetic, more hip, more with it, someone they want to connect with. It is amazing how one article of clothing can honestly be your drawing card and say so much for you. And it was really, to me, a fashion passport to a much fuller life. And so, yeah, I loved my product. I lived my product. I ate and breathed it. And that was fabulous. And so when people said, "Oh, but Diane, come on, you're in your mid-70s. Don't you want to retire and enjoy life?" I thought, I did enjoy life. I am enjoying life. I love what I do. What are you talking about?
What are you saying? What are you saying?
Very different experience for me.
And we're going to pick it up there in our next episode, because, folks, every Saturday morning at 10 a.m., be sure to listen to this YouTube channel. You can click here, subscribe, and support this channel, because we're going to have more of this amazing story from an amazing woman, Diane Gilman, based on her book, Too Young to Be Old. And Diane, in our final few moments, we have some great upcoming topics and guests. In general, share with our audience what they'll be hearing in the future.
For me, I feel very much like, as an aging female, I have no information. I just don't get it. We are literally the majority of America, and we're just in this sort of dark tunnel. So what I want to bring to light is everything that I've experienced, and I get a lot of input in New York City, but everything that I've experienced, or I've gone out and researched, or I've explored and discovered that have made aging easier, more pleasurable, healthier, happier, and more fascinating. And the one thing I would say that I'm going through right now is a total rebirth and rebranding of myself, because what I discovered when I stepped back from tele-retail was one of the talents I developed on television, communication, verbal communication, I really love. And I kept saying to myself, wow, I would really love to have my own podcast. Literally 7 weeks after I said goodbye to my TV audience, this gentleman, Dale, called me up and said, Diane, have your own podcast? And I thought, yeah, I really would. And so I'm going to tell you that you can go through your 60s, your 70s, your 80s. You can rebrand yourself. You can rewire yourself. You can inspire yourself. And you can do new, fabulous, fun, and great things. Don't buy into the current knowledge that we think we have that old age is a decline. In fact, it may be your platform for taking off. You're never too old. You're never too late to make it happen.
That's so good. And never too old, never too late to make it happen in terms of skincare, in terms of how to dress, in terms of hair care, never too old to make it happen. Because this, Diane, as you said, is about rebirth and rebranding. And part of that is going to be, we're going to talk about you surviving widowhood, you becoming a widow. We're going to talk about you surviving cancer, because all that is pivotal, not only to Diane Gilman's story, but we submit to millions of American women who are going to be tuning into this program. And we look forward to reconnecting with you next week. So Diane, it's been absolutely delightful, madam. I'm looking forward to us reconnecting again for next Saturday's program.
Oh, me too. Me too. We've got so many interesting guests coming, and I think we're going to have information that people are really going to be able to use.
Absolutely.
And see that it makes an almost instantaneous difference for the better in their lives. And that is really what this channel is for. It's all about education and inspiration and innovation.
Innovation as we age. And we are here, folks, to attack ageism. So come back next week. We're going to continue our conversation with Diane Gilman, who became the #1 tele-retail salesperson with over $100 million in sales. You've heard about DG2 jeans for women, but there's even more to come. And we would be remiss, Diane, if we did not thank the rock star, Nina Gilpin. Thank you, Nina. We appreciate you. We love you for also being part of this team. With that said, Diane, have a great day. Till next time. Bye-bye. You did it. Almost.